So I actually find a majority of walking simulators to be rather boring, but some are actually very enthralling as long as they have something interesting to uncover or an engaging story to tell. Narcosis, by Studio Honor Code, is always on the cusp of being interesting and dull. There are moments when it makes good use of the environment, but the overall pacing is a bit slow and draining. I'll start with one of the highlights. The story opens with Kipling Mattis, who works as an engineer for an undersea mining company until a major earthquake strikes, sending the entire facility crumbling as Kip is forced to make his way through the wreckage while struggling to hold on to his sanity and air supply. While the story isn't too complex, I really admire Kip's well-written internal monologue as he provides context for some of the events. Luckily, the dialogue isn't so frequent that it interferes with the atmosphere, but it is welcome at certain points. The gameplay is very slow, which I think may turn some people away, as you really do feel like you're in a diving suit because the controls are very stiff and cumbersome. The left stick moves, and the right stick simply turns your head a bit, so your line of sight is very limited. You have a thruster that you can use for a couple seconds to move quicker and leap over gaps, but this is not the kind of game that has good platforming. Since you can't see your legs, landing on platforms was a bit nerve-wracking, although I probably only misjudged the distance like maybe twice throughout the game. There are some enemies that you will encounter on occasion, but they are mostly just cuttlefish and anglerfish that will just want to give you a hard time. They will ram into you, and then grapple onto your helmet until they break through, but your only means of defense is a very slow knife attack. The third most common enemy is the spider crab that is resistant to your knife and can kill you if you get too close. These were easily the most frustrating enemies in the game, since you will most often have to wait for them to pass or scare them away with a flare, which sometimes doesn't even work. Another problem I have with this game is that there is sometimes no indication on where you need to go. Usually that is not an issue, but there are some parts such as this dark area within an undersea volcano where it's very hard to navigate and tell which direction the objective is. That being said, there are some enjoyable elements that involve the deterioration of Kip's mental health. He will often experience strange hallucinations where you'll need to find a way out of a room or an endless hallway. There's a really cool moment where he's inside of a round room where everything is oddly proportioned and he walks around it like a giant hamster wheel in order to find numbers to unlock the door. I thought that was really creative, but it's really the only time where we have anything like that. The game tries to incorporate some horror elements, but they usually fall flat since jump scares are very predictable, and some of them only added mild frustration rather than tension. The survival elements in general are well implemented as well, since you need to keep a careful eye on your oxygen level. While it does deplete rather quickly, the game is usually generous enough with refill stations and tanks. Whenever Kip is under stress while being attacked by an enemy or next to a dead body, his oxygen intake will increase, causing it to deplete faster, and believe me, that can be extremely problematic since it's already easy enough to lose track of your remaining percentage. Finally, the overall atmosphere is actually very impressive, from the claustrophobic hallways, to the eerie sound design, to the great voice acting. Narcosis is definitely a well-designed game, but as I said, there are some flaws that hold it back. This is not a bad game, but it can get tiresome after a while since there isn't enough variety to keep it interesting. The experience is relatively short and only consists of 14 chapters, but it certainly feels a lot longer due to its pace. I'll say it's a decent game. Not terrible, but not the best either, so definitely take it for what it's worth.